Ducati, sending an engineer over to not only teach and help and get us running, but also realize, okay, how much adjustability can we give this team here in America that we know not a whole lot about?
That's MotoAmerica Superbike racer Kyle Wyman talking about testing new stuff on his V4R race bike. We chat him up on this week's podcast. Well, welcome everybody to stop by Greg's Garage Pod with co-host Jason Pridmore, presented by ARAI. And hey, it's peak riding season here in the U.S., and if you like to ride, from early morning to late night long distance rides or daily commutes, ARAI recommends the versatile Pro Shade System Shield. With 3 positions, the external shade can handle a variety of lighting conditions without compromise to the protective capacity of the helmet. A combination clear visor and sunshade, it's perfect for all conditions without carrying an extra shield. You'll be ready for any lighting condition anytime with a flick of their hand. Hey, and you can only get the Pro Shade system on an ARAI helmet. Visit ARAIamericas.com for more information. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jason Pridmore. Hi, Jay.
What's up, G-Dub? How are you?
I'm good, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, good. Busy as usual. It seems like we ask that question every week, and I'm getting ready to get on the road again. I was trying to get up to Dr. Ting's the next day or so. I've had a lot of people ask about my leg as of recent too, because they've seen me riding, and it's still coming along. I still can't swing a golf club. So it's weird, right? I can go out and ride a motorcycle, but can't swing a golf club.
And how's walking? So it's
walking
been it's been 2 weeks since I've seen you. It's like
I know,
like I missed the handshakes.
Better. Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. It's weird because this morning I did a bunch of stuff. I've been cleaning out my house a lot, so we took a bunch of stuff to the dump, and then I took a bunch of stuff to Goodwill today. And after I lift and walk around on it for a while, it just gets kind of sore and achy. But I have to keep reminding myself that I'm about 4 months into this now, and I know it's 6 to 8 month deal. So it's just getting there. But I rode again on Monday. Was out at Chuckwalla, rode there on Monday, and now I'm just seeing out the weekend. I got another 2 days at Button Willow coming up this Sunday, Monday over Memorial Day.
Oh, really?
And then I'm gonna go out there with Let's Ride track days. Go out there, ride with them on Sunday, Monday, and then I'm off to you. We're going to MotoAmerica next week.
One of my favorite tracks too, Road America.
I know we're gonna have to do our MotoAmerica pod like Tuesday. Might have to kill a couple of them in one day, G-Dub.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I gotcha.
Might have to
because you're gonna be at the track Monday, right? Okay.
Yeah. See, we're letting all our listeners in on stuff that we normally talk by ourselves on, but that's what's going to end up happening. I'm gonna have to.
No,
I'm gonna have to do it.
Yeah. No, we'll get all that sorted out. Yeah, because then we both have to get traveling and stuff. So, yeah, when I go to Road America, man, a buddy of mine is Hoffman Estates Audi, and he's going to lend me a car, and he's going to surprise me with what car. So definitely, if I get something really sick like an R8, I'll take you for a ride, Jay. You can strap in, and I'm not letting you drive the thing.
Yeah, but hey, word on the street, you're going to try to do some riding, right? We talked about this.
Yeah. So go ahead. Let the cat out of the bag.
Where are you going to fit your bag and everything if you get one of them? You going to put it in the front seat?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Hey, that's what MJ does. MJ, he's got this. When I went down to visit him, I'm dropping right now, dropping names. I get it. I'm going to get heat for it. But when I went down and played golf with him in December, and he shows up in this pretty sick Ferrari. Anyways, he shows up in this thing, and there's no room for anything. So he's got this tour-sized golf bag on the front seat of his car, like just jammed up in the front. Like that's where the golf bag goes.
Well, that's
practical.
what I'm have to do with my gear bag. So
yeah,
I'll just have to load everything in the gear bag. I'm going to be going with a gear bag, Jason. Why?
Because you're riding at Road America. So for all of you that want to take a shot at G-Dub, on the Monday, Tuesday after Road America races, Sport Bike Track Time's having a 2-day track day up there. And I'm hanging out, and I'm bringing my boy Kevin, who went to Australia with me, but who owns and runs Chuckwalla now. And he is coming to Road America to come and watch the races on Sunday, and then going to ride with us on Monday, Tuesday. So... And then I've talked Greg White into donning the leathers again. So everybody that wants to take a shot at G-Dub, now you have a chance.
Have at it. Have at it. And yes, for everybody sitting in their car or whatever driving right now, and you're thinking to yourself, is he going to release lap times? The answer is no. I am not going to release lap times.
Well, you might not, but I might.
Oh, I see. Well, fair play to you then, Guy. Fair play
but
to
you.
you.
I'll always pat it for you, G-Dub. Nobody needs to know the total truth.
But you're going to pat it the opposite direction. I know you. So
No,
if I do like
impossible.
If I do like a 245, you'll be like, oh yeah, he was around the 302.
It's impossible. I can't pat it. I would never pat it that way. It would be less believable that somebody would roll around. You know what? I really can't hate on you. You actually, I know you ride well. You really do.
Okay.
So,
all right.
But anyway, it's going to be fun, right? It'll be good.
I got to go.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be good.
Love
man. I'm looking forward to it. All right, Jay, let's kind of switch gears here for a second because it is May 22nd, 2019, and it's a day for remembering one of our favorite people in the world, Nicky Hayden. He passed away 2 years ago today. And I understand that there are people that listen to this podcast that don't really know much about motorcycle racing. So I don't know, Jay, let's talk Nicky Hayden. For those that don't know, Nicky Hayden grew up in Owensboro, Kentucky in a racing family, 16 years old. He was your teammate on a Hypercycle Suzuki, went on to win a couple championships here in the States, including 2002, right? 2002 AMA Superbike title, and moved on to win the 2006 MotoGP World title. That's the resume. But the guy, the man, Nicky Hayden, was a phenomenal human being, and it's part of why he's on the thoughts of a lot of people. So I just wanted to kind of recognize, Nick's passing 2 years ago and say that we're thinking about him, thinking about the family, the Hayden family, and all the people close to him. But how about a Nicky story, Jay? You want to tell some stories about Nick to kind of keep the memory going? You got any good stories about him?
I mean, I think all of us have a lot of really good stories about Nick. And when you and I, for me, I thought about on today, I think about Raj a lot because I remember where we were 2 years ago and what he was going through and just, being there at the test at Pittsburgh. And I thought about probably one of the coolest stories and memories would be to talk about like more of the Hayden family, just of how influential they were. Because in the early 2000s, when racing was really good here in America, all the way across the board, I mean, road racing, dirt track, all that was great. One of the things that Nicky was always had in his heart was dirt track. He just loved it more than anything. And it didn't matter how successful he was becoming in road racing. He still wanted to do a couple of dirt track events, wanted to get the Grand Slam in dirt tracking. And I know it sounds crazy, Greg, but 17 years ago, almost to the day, the Hayden family were 1, 2, 3 at the Springfield TT. Springfield's this weekend. So it got me thinking about that. And I remember like talking with Nick about that race, specifically probably about 5 or 6 years even later. And the thing that was so cool about it is he hardly talked about like winning. He talked about how great it was sharing the podium with his brothers, with Tommy and Raj. And there's a YouTube video out there, if you get a chance to watch it, of the three of them at the Springfield TT. And it kind of just said everything that embodied Nicky to me. Was he never lost sight of his roots, which was dirt track. And he always loved his family more than anything. And the fact that him and his brothers got to share that Springfield TT podium together was, the guy was MotoGP champion 4 years later, which is insane. But if you went really back and talked to him about what were some of your biggest career highlights, I know that was one of them. It just got me thinking today, like, it's not just about thinking about Nicky, it's thinking about all the Hayden family and just what class and quality they all are. And I think that was probably the one of the coolest stories that Nicky told me was, I was always talking him out of going dirt track. And I'm like, Nick, please stop. Like, you're going to make a lot of money. You're going to do great as a road racer. I don't want to see you get hurt, dirt tracking. And, but that was a story that I remembered. And it's almost, because Springfield's this weekend, it just got me thinking about that. And I thought that was a pretty cool event. Those guys all got on the podium together.
That's awesome. One of the events, or one of the things I got to do with Nick was, I can't remember what year it was. It might have been either 2001 or 2002, but I got to go to Mid-Ohio with Nicky and Michael Andretti. And there was one of those days, when things were like, when Superbikes were really popular, where Nicky got to give his RC51 to Michael Andretti, and Nicky got to drive a 900 horsepower Champ car around Mid-Ohio.
Yeah.
And it was, dude, it was amazing. Because Nick actually, as I remember it, he did a lap time that he would have been able to qualify. He spun it out. I want to say at the back end of the back straightaway, he did spin the car out once, and then he gathered it back up. But I mean, he only got a few laps. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember just Michael Andretti got to ride the Superbike, and of course he was 25 seconds off the pace, or it didn't matter. I mean, riding a Superbike is difficult, but riding a Champ car was really incredible. And I just remember him coming across the line a couple times and watching the kart team. I want to say it was like the Motorola car that he was in at the time.
Yep.
I remember.
I think you're right.
I remember watching the engineers and watching their faces on the lap time that Nicky did, and they were just like, "Wow!" Like, we can't even believe it. And just the sheer and pure enthusiasm as a kid. Like Nicky being an adult, Nicky getting ready to win a Superbike championship, all that kind of stuff. But just like the appreciation he had, he knew exactly where he was. He knew what he was doing. He didn't take anything for granted, and it was pretty incredible. I mean, it was.
He probably did it all with a smile on his face.
Dude, the whole time. I mean, it was ear to ear. And actually, I think I remember a story. If anybody wants to read about that story and to fact check me, I'm pretty sure Motorcyclist Online did a story back in like maybe 2009 where they kind of recapped what happened back then. And I haven't searched for it, but if you take a look, it's the story, because we actually did it for the show that I was working on back then called Bike Week, that was hosted, I think at the time, by Dave Despain. And it was really spectacular to watch. It was really fun to be a part of it, and to, of course, get to talk to Nick in the trailer and behind the scenes and all that kind of great stuff. And it's, I don't know, it was one of those things where I was like, wow, I'm really glad I could be here. And there's just so many personal moments with him over the years. And like you're saying, I think the biggest thing, Jay, is that the dude never changed. And, the stuff that he would say, one of the things was, he always told me, he's like, yeah, man, when you're winning world championships, your phone never stops ringing. When you're not doing that good, you find out who your friends are.
That's right.
And he would tell me that because I would reach out to the guy all the time, not all the time, once a month, once every 2 or 3 months, sometimes, when things were really bad and he wasn't winning races and stuff. And he was always like, hey, G, what's up? And always kind, always giving, like, hey, man, I'm starting this new thing called Greg's Garage. It's oh yeah, whatever. Yeah, we'll do a video. No problem. Yeah, we'll do interviews. He was always good like that.
He was even later in life, like, when he got sponsored by Dainese, there would be events down in Newport and things, and I would just get like a random text, "Hey JP, you coming to this thing tonight at Dainese?" And it was like, if I got that text, I was going, no matter what. It was like, and he was just, even if you just got sort of, there was a time at the Long Beach show, I was down at the Long Beach show, and I saw Nick. And it was like, JP, what are you doing? And, what are we doing for dinner tonight? And I'm like, oh, like, immediately all my evening plans were put back, because I was going to go to the show and then drive back to Ventura, and, but Nick had a couple things he had to do. And then it was like, and I remember we just went across the street to Islands. There was a place called Islands, and we just went over there. We just sat and, we had dinner for a couple hours, and it was just, it's just like just getting the recap. And you always felt like you always felt with Nicky that you left off right. You picked up right where you left off. You didn't have to see him for 6 months, and it would just be boom. You just pick right up. But you get that with Raj too, and Tommy, and you can just go up and talk to him, and you just never feel like, you always feel like you're part of something, when you talk to them.
All right, last little bit, because you mentioned the Dainese stuff before we move on. I remember one time there was, I don't know if I was shooting video or something for Greg's Garage, but we were going to whatever the Dainese flagship store is down in Southern California, and he was going to be there, and he pedaled. He cycled there. Remember, he showed up on his bicycle, and everybody was like, is that Nicky Hayden coming through the door in a cycling kit? And it was his own kit. And he was like, yeah, I just thought I'd take the chance, opportunity to train while I was here. It wasn't like he showed up with an entourage. He didn't show up with a car. He was just Nicky Hayden on a bicycle, and everybody was blown away. And I thought that was so awesome. Anyway.
That happened a couple times, to be honest, when I would go down there, and he would do the exact same thing. Yeah, he would show up on his bicycle and getting his training in on the day. And it was funny. If you ever you ever got to watch Nicky eat, it was actually really funny. If it's like, Nicky, are you going to put any calories in your body today? Because he took all that stuff really serious. But 2 years ago today, it seems like it was yesterday. It just it makes me sad, but it also makes me great. It also makes me happy knowing how many great things people say about Nicky to this day, and how iconic he has become and who he is.
Yep.
So this last weekend, Greg, they ran MotoGP at Le Mans. We know Nicky became MotoGP legend and then retired his name, but this last weekend, or his number rather, but this last week, MotoGP was at Le Mans, and I'm starting to see a little trend here. Obviously,
you think
Marquez again does the business, and it wasn't as close as it looked. 1.9 seconds at the end over Dovizioso and Petrucci. I thought it was a strong ride from Petrucci that we'll talk about in a minute. Jack Miller again, really strong, ends up fourth. Rossi fifth. I mean, the ride of the year maybe so far. Paul Espargaro finishes sixth on the KTM, only 5.9 seconds behind the winner.
Awesome
Morbidelli
ride.
and Quartararo. Yeah, awesome ride, right?
Mm-hmm.
Morbidelli and Quartararo on the Petronas Yamahas end up 7th and 8th. Crutchlow 9th, and Alex Rins, very uncharacteristic 10th. Lorenzo looked a little bit better this weekend, but brings the bike home in 11th, kind of falls back, halfway through the race and back. He started going backwards a bit. Aleix Espargaro, Johan Zarco, Siren, and Miguel Oliveira are your last point scorers in 15th. I'm starting to see a little bit of things here. I don't know what your take on the Grand Prix was, but it seems like Marquez has this thing right now where it's, he's qualifying amazing. He's getting the whole shots. The Honda seems like it's got a little bit of pace to where it's harder for the bikes to get past him, but he does those first 3 laps and really make sure things are up to temperature. And then he just kind of walks.
Yeah. I just think that any deficit that the Honda had last year in terms of speed on a Ducati is kind of gone. Like, it doesn't, it's not like Ducati's got this pavement gobbling speed over a Honda any longer. And I think that with that bridge gap, even if there is anything wrong with the Honda's front end, like, Cal Crutchlow is saying, or whatever, Marquez just rides around it. So I think the rest of the championship's in trouble right now. Someone's got to find some answers. It seems like Ducati is still becoming works really good on most of the tracks and not good on other tracks. Jack Miller is impressing, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Marquez is.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, Jack Miller at the beginning was unreal. Like he got himself up to second, and he chased Marquez down, and it was almost like, he went by Marquez, and I'm like, wow, that he's got a lot of pace, but Marquez sat on him for a couple laps, passed him back, and then just checked out. It was at that point, it's like, okay, I can see what you got. Now I might have to push. It was almost like he sat there and studied him for a couple of laps and went, all right, a couple spots I'm going to push a little bit deeper when I get back in the front and just kind of break these guys. And he did. And Miller did a stellar job trying to hold on. I mean, he really did do an amazing job. He only ended up 2.9 seconds off the victory, did Jack Miller, and he was only 0.8 behind the other 2 Ducatis. So
but he had no tire at the end, though, Jay. They
together.
said, you know what I mean? Like none.
Yeah, you could see it, right?
It was a shame.
What did you think of the Dovizioso Petrucci battle late?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, dude, I just think that honestly, I think Petrucci had more pace than Dovizioso.
I did too.
I wonder. I mean, it's just such a crap thing to say at this point, but I wonder if, you know what I mean? Like, Dovizioso's in the battle. The team understands how valuable the points are when you're racing Marc Marquez. Those extra 4 points. I don't know. It just kind of looked that way to me in a really strange way.
I agree. No, I don't think he gave it to him. I don't think there was team orders. But what I do believe is that the passes were done in a way that was going to be very non-taking Dovizioso out. Like, let's just say that Petrucci, let's say that Dovi was on a different bike, or he was racing with Rossi or something. The passes, I think, would have been a little bit more harsh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've ridden Le Mans, and when I was watching the Le Mans race this weekend, I said to myself, how many times have I done the Le Mans 24-hour? Because I've got so many laps around that place. And it's very tricky. And the conditions at that place are very tricky. There's a lot of nuances to Le Mans that you can't see
and
on
it was
TV.
Really cold, right? It was really cold.
Like, that's what I mean. Yeah. The track is
degrees.
Super sensitive to temperature. And those little half wet, half dry conditions that you always seem to get there, like they had throughout practice and qualifying, they're very it's a very unnerving kind of track. It's one of those places where when I see Rins finishing 10th and he said he didn't have any confidence in the front, I've actually been there where you want to get going, but you're just not kind of getting the feedback that you want. I did 24-hour races, Greg. I couldn't believe it when I went back and thought about it. From 2008 to 2014, I did the Le Mans 24-hour. I went there 7 straight years, and I did some races there earlier in my career in the early 2000s. Now, I'll give you a quick stat where I'm going with this. These guys in the rain, I think 7 or 8 years ago, we raced doing 41s and 2s. That was kind of a really good race pace 8 years ago. And since they've repaved the track like 3 years ago, so it's definitely faster now. These guys are doing 41s and 2s, even high 40 in wet conditions. And I was like, wow, that's it. The grip level there has gone up. But did you see how many crashes we had over the weekend? We had a lot of crashes.
Some riders 4 times just themselves. 4 crashes in a weekend.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that kind of track where that can happen a lot. And I was always fortunate. I only had, I think I had two accidents there, but it's a very different type of racetrack. It's very finicky, but it just seemed like Marquez is adapting to situations. And let's not keep the guy is 8 points, I believe, ahead in the championship he threw one away at Texas. Like, let's be honest. He Greg right now could have a 33-point lead in the championship really, really easily.
Yeah.
I got to think that after 5 rounds, him having an 8-point lead, he's probably feeling pretty good.
I would think so. I mean, why wouldn't you really? He just looks like he's in control. We're going to some tracks that he likes. It's crazy. And he got Honda's 300 Premier win too. Crazy. So, and by the way, he is not far behind at this point Mick Doohan for being the all-time Honda, Premier class winner. Mick Doohan tops the list, crazy. Jay, at 54, and Marquez already has 47. Wow. So he could. I don't think he's slowing down. He could do it this year. Yeah. Yep.
What do you think about Rossi? Rossi ends up 5th, 3 seconds back, but again, it just looked like they just didn't have that last little bit of push to get them. When the Ducati started messing about with each other, I thought, well, he's right there, and he only ends up 1.1 seconds out of second place, but it just doesn't. It doesn't look like the Yamaha has that final little bit of oomph to get it kind of past those guys at a track like that, especially a track where there's a lot of stop and go, like slow acceleration points and things like that. It just looks like it struggles, like he talks about.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about last week because I screwed the pooch on 2. I predicted Rossi was gonna win, so that one came back and walloped me right in the grill. And then, and we also talked about Rins and how, what a good handling motorcycle the Suzuki has, and he never got it going. Yeah. But on the Rossi thing, Rossi said afterwards he just didn't have anything for the Ducati. And I think that in order for the Yamaha at this point to be able to compete with the Ducati, if there's any straightaway, the bike has got to be perfect because he's got to have a 5 bike length lead in order for those guys to just pass him by a bike length or not pass him at the end of any given straightaway. And that's asking a tremendous amount from the tires. So, if you're Michelin, Jay, what are you doing development wise? You have a Ducati, which likes to pick it up on the meat of the tire and drive out. You have a Honda that likes to pick it up, onto the meat of the tire and drive out. But you have a Yamaha and you have a Suzuki that likes to be on the edge of the tire and roll through the corner as fast as possible. I would think that the engineers at Michelin right now are probably pulling their hair out, trying to figure out how do we satisfy everyone in this one? Because right now, if you look at the point and shoot motorcycles, they're leading the way, not the ride through the corner as fast as I can motorcycles, especially at Le Mans.
It seems like the Suzuki on the edge though doesn't mind the power delivery wise. Like it seems like it's not so bad with there, but it just seems slow when it gets onto the straightaways. The Yamaha has kind of been proven that if it can roll through the corners, it can get off some of those medium fast type of turns where you're still rolling through the middle of the corner pretty fast. It seems like the Yamaha, it just struggles, like you say, on the edge. And that's what he talks about all the time. I mean, the guy only finished 3 seconds from the win. And I feel like he's riding as good as he can, but it really is becoming apparent to me that he's on the 3rd best bike out there, but he's routinely the quickest Yamaha. Now, we'll take Quartararo out of that mix for a second because when I watched the morning warm up, Quartararo was just banging out minute 32. It's like over and over and over, and he was quickest in warm up, but he got such a poor start. And Le Mans is another one of those tracks, Greg, that's really hard to pass. But you look at the top 9 guys were 9.8 seconds from the win. That's a pretty close together bunch. So yeah, I think the Yamahas are a little bit behind, but they still had 3 bikes in the top 8. Vinales crashes. He's really up and down again with him.
Now, Jay, let's go back to Quartararo for a second.
Yeah.
He finishes 8th.
Yeah.
He's 8.4 seconds off.
Yeah.
But to me, at this point, even though Morbidelli beat him, I still think Quartararo's got to be one of the most impressive stories so far this season, don't you?
Oh my gosh. Like, I don't know if, and I didn't see it coming. We said it last week. I didn't see Fabio Quartararo being the guy that he is really turning into, and being there at his home round. I know he was hoping for more and wishing for more, but he's just so solid. And, Steve Day, who is one of the MotoGP commentators, I saw he put out a tweet that it's an incredible stat. And I know you're really good with stats and numbers, Greg, as well. But do you realize that he's done 1,234 laps in total? And this came from the Sepang Racing Circuit team, the Petronas team themselves. He's done 1,234 laps, or 6,024 kilometers.
Okay.
And he's yet to crash that bike.
Not one time.
Not once. The kid's never thrown it down the road. And I think a little bit of it, what have I constantly said to you about what I feel of MotoGP bikes, about them?
They're easy to ride.
Yeah, I do. And what I mean by that is zero disrespect. I think that it would be, it's because you see a lot of guys crashing every weekend. But when you look at a kid like Quartararo, he is definitely, I mean, I was thinking about this, and I always think about our podcast, but that is the guy that will replace Rossi. Don't you agree?
Right now I do. Sure.
It's got to be. There's not another person that I can think of right now that's in that series that you could go, well, that's the guy. It's got to be Quartararo. Now, it's so ironic to me that he's French, and now he's riding for the old Tech 3 team that used to be Tech 3, the Petronas team.
Yeah.
It's so weird that that's kind of the position Zarco was in, isn't it? And it's a timing thing, where if Rossi's ending up gone in the next year or two, because there's zero way that Yamaha lets Quartararo go, I feel. Even if he has to stay on Petronas for another year, there's zero chance that he goes anywhere.
And what's really the difference? I mean, he's getting factory level equipment. All right. But with that said, because you just mentioned Zarco, let's talk about Pol Espargaro on the Red Bull KTM, who finishes only 5.9 off the lead. He commented after the race he could actually see Marquez cross the line, like he was that close. Just to give you an idea, Zarco was next, 33 seconds behind. Then Hafiz's Sirene, only 1.4 seconds behind Zarco, and he beat his teammate Oliveira for the first time, I believe the first time this season, who was another couple tenths back. So here you have a 13, 14, and 15 bundle of KTMs, and all the way up the list in front of Aprilia, Lorenzo. Aprilia was Aleix because Iannone was out. Lorenzo, Rins, Crutchlow, Quartararo, Morbidelli was Pol Espargaro. And
amazing.
It was
you got to give the guy a total credit. That's a win for them, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And he said post-race that they were looking for a top 6 within 10 seconds of the race leader. Now, had Marquez kept the gas on, he still would have been about, I think, maybe 8.5 or 9 seconds behind. Obviously Marquez gave like 3 seconds back to everybody on that deal, but still, so they met their goal. The question is, Jason, you got to see that bike ride around the track. I got to see some highlights. I saw it and got to see some other highlights that they posted later on. And I posed this question to you. Is this now the new norm for Red Bull KTM, or is Le Mans more of a rider's track where, the combination of that WP suspension, which obviously is not the norm in MotoGP, it's more Öhlins, and the bike that they have a new carbon frame, is that working? Is this it, or was that just Le Mans?
That's what you got to ask. And Greg, you bring up such a really good point here, because when you really look at it, right? When you look at Marquez, he's the only one really doing anything on a Honda. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Crutchlow's there some weekends without question. He's been the closest one of anybody. But then you look at the Aprilias, and really Aleix is the only one that's done anything on that bike ever. And we'll get back to this point in a second with the Aprilia. But then you can even you look at certain brands, certain makes. You look at the Suzuki. Joan Mir, it's not even fair to really say that he's going to be in the same boat as Rins. But you've got 3 specific bikes there with 3 specific riders that all have they're all ahead of everybody else by such a long distance. But I'll tell you, when you think the other KTMs were 20 seconds behind Espargaro, like they're 28 seconds back was Zarco, I believe it was what it was. And it's like, and the other 2 just came in like quick succession. Is it just the track? Why wouldn't all of them be a little bit closer? But if you watch Espargaro ride, Paul, there's nobody that is on the edge more than him. Like when I watch him ride, it makes my palms sweaty, you know? Like he is
he's that full lean angle all the time. Hashtag full lean angle.
He is riding that thing so hard. Yeah. And that's why he tips off a fair bit. But it's a big boost for them. And you know, the other guys, it's And I sit there and I watch that race, and I'm watching him ride, and I'm saying, this guy's, what is he, 2.8 off the podium? He's only 2.8 off the podium, right behind these factory Ducatis. Ducatis seem as a whole right now, they've got their stuff together. All their riders are doing pretty well when you look at it as in a whole, right? Yeah. They've got a bunch of riders that are capable on the Ducatis. What do you think Aprilia's thinking? We had this discussion a couple of weeks ago.
They've got to make some steps.
Aprilia has just got to be like, I don't know. Has Aleix ever finished? And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but can you remember a time when Aleix was 6 seconds off a win on the Aprilia? In a dry race, let's just say.
I don't know.
I call it what it is. I honestly don't know. Yeah. I can't say that I can remember that.
Not that it stands out, but they have made a lot of changes in that race program. They've added some personnel. They've added a layer that takes the lead engineer out of management position. It will take some time. This has only happened in a couple of months. I mean, you know, look how long it's taking your leg to heal. So I'm kind of thinking to myself,
thanks.
but I mean, you know what I mean? Like
but you're right.
You're impatient at 4 months, and it's a 6 to 8 month injury. As race fans, are we saying, come on, Aprilia, get your stuff together? I think that it stinks right now, but it's still early in the season, relatively early in the season. And I'm really hoping that with Bradley Smith's technical prowess, the speed he's been able to show on the bike in testing versus some of the other test riders from other teams when they get together, they're on the right track. Aprilia is. I just think that they are 2 steps behind at a continuously developing paddock, meaning Repsol's advancing, Ducati's still advancing, Yamaha's trying to advance. And so it's really difficult when you're on your back foot in MotoGP, because you would have to take 2 big chunks even to get to the top 6 position, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So, I mean, I just think Aprilia is not really worth having a long conversation about at the moment. Right. I would rather have a conversation about how absolutely crazy the warm-up lap was, with
oh my gosh,
Joan Mir, Carol Abraham,
and Carol Abraham,
really crazy. Did you see the replay of just like the fronts locked up?
I did. And they're both just were looking at each other like, what just happened? And I heard some muttering about with the carbon brakes, when they cool off, they can get really grabby. And see, this is the Le Mans thing though, Greg. This is the kind of stuff that happens there, where it's when the track temperature is really cold, weird stuff just happens. When that first rain hits, weird stuff really happens. But it's a characteristic, I believe, of the track. And there's all sorts of little crowns in places like that. When you really go walk the surface, you can see it. And but those 2 together, that accident just was like, it was so weird. And it's so hard to imagine guys at that level doing that on the warm-up lap, but I could see it. I can see it at that place. I've literally seen guys crash doing nothing on like the warm-up laps of a 24-hour. Now, at a warm-up lap of a 24-hour, they give you 2 warm-up laps. They do like a fake practice start where you run across the track and you do your 2 warm-up laps. I've seen guys crash on those, and I had been following them, and it's just cold. Track's dry, and I'm sitting there going, it really didn't look like they did anything wrong, and it really makes you scratch your head. And it was too bad, because I think Mir flung it down the road at least 4 times this weekend. And I was lucky, and Carl was very lucky not to get hurt, because that bike did go careening into Mir's bike, I think, hit Abraham, and yeah, just a chain reaction. And I'm glad they were okay. But I think that the championship right now is, I don't know. I know they go to Mugello next. And I know that when we get ready to do our pod on that in a couple weeks, and we're going to be talking about the straightaways and the Ducatis, but historically, again, it's been a good place for Yamaha with roll speeds and things. It'll be interesting, but man, somebody's got to get up there and give it to Marquez. Now, Greg, in Moto 2, I don't know why, but it always makes me happy. And I can't explain it to you, but I'm really happy to see Alex Marquez win. I think it's got to be so difficult to follow in such a gigantic.
That's got to be why, Jason, because there's always got to be a little bit of something that says, I hate to say this, but poor Alex. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you're right.
And that's why I love it when he has success, because you're like, Mark just rules the world the last several years, and there's Alex who's trying to, and yeah, it had been what, year and a half or something. It's been a while for him.
Yeah, I think you said it was 2017 since he won, I believe is what you said, Greg.
Yeah, Motegi 2017. So anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to stop you, Jay, but go ahead and go.
No, but I agree with you. It's like, and you kind of, you see him leading that race and you think, okay, what's going to happen? Like, bike's going to break or he's going to fall over, and it just, the guy rode solid the whole race, and he was just pounding out the laps, and he beats Navarro and Augusto Fernandez by just a little under 2 seconds, 1.1 to Navarro, 1.8 to Fernandez. Great ride for Fernandez. Brad Binder on basically a new chassis that Red Bull has. He ends up fourth. Chevy Vierge is fifth. Tom Luthi sixth, who went backwards. I really thought that he was going to take off and do well. Enea Bastianini, who I think is without question the standout guy so far, who's jumped from Moto 3 to Moto 2. So we'll have to keep a really good look on him next year. Finishes seventh. Schroeder eighth. Iker Lecuona ninth. Nico Buliga in 10th on that Sky Racing VR46 team. And then we had Nagashima, who's teammates to Remy Gardner, who fell off in the race while trying to catch up, was Remy. 12th, Fabio Di Gianantonio, another guy from Moto 3 to Moto 2. Luca Marini, who's just a shocker this year. I thought he would be, I know he had the same shoulder injury as Marquez during the offseason. He got it fixed, but man, I did not see him being this far back. How about Joe Roberts? Gets his first points of the year. Happy to see that for Joe. 27 seconds back, but finishes right on the back of Marini. And then Monzi is the last of our point stores on the MV Agusta. I think, the Moto 2 races, historically, you and I always talk about them being a little bit boring. This one kept me interested because of the gap that Marquez had at the front and the guys that were chasing him.
Well, 12 non-finishers, okay, which is huge.
Yeah.
Baldassari, your points leader, that was a bit of a shock. Him going out early.
That was a big one too. But did you watch the crash? Did you see it, GW? It's a typical Le Mans crash out of that left-right chicane. But it was so weird how he lost the front. And then, I haven't heard any updates, but I know that he must be okay. But Passini just ran right, like Passini had nowhere to go.
Yep.
And he actually thumped the back of Baldassari's head on his way down. But it was a weird crash. He lost the front, accelerating out of a right-hand chicane, and just kind of falls over right in front of Passini, who had nowhere to go, and he slams him. Yeah, bad.
Yeah,
just bad.
No, I like the race. I thought that Marquez did a great job of controlling the pace. He had constant pressure the whole race, but Navarro and Fernandez were kind of like, they were duking each other out a little bit. So I like this class from, stock engines. Obviously, they're Triumph motors and stuff, but I like to see the battle of chassis. So we had a Kalex win. We had a speed up in second, Kalex third, a KTM chassis. And then if you go back down, our Stefano Manzi is on that MV Agusta finish in the last point. So that was a great race. Marquez needed that one, just because he's in there duking it out, and people kind of say, hey, your brother's whipping butt, and what are you doing? And so it was really good to see him win. I had not even thought that he didn't win a race in 2018 until I really thought about it, and I said, wow, Motegi 2017, yeah. So it's good to see him. Good for the team. Obviously, it's a very strong team, that Mark VDS team. I think for me,
what it really did too, it vaulted him too. In the championship. Greg, sorry to interrupt, when you look at the championship, Baldassarri's got 2 non-finishes and 3 wins.
I know, that's it.
So
he either wins it or bins
crazy.
it, right? Win it or bin it, baby. Yeah.
And Baldassarri is a guy that I look at that if, when you watched him 2 years ago, I've really seen him evolve as a rider. Like he's riding with so much, like it just seems to me like he uses his head so much more, and he looks very calculated in the races that he's won this year, very patient. So it was, and I can't really say that I thought that he did anything really specifically wrong at Le Mans. Like I'm sure that the crash that he had makes him scratch his head, but he leaves Le Mans after crashing. He leaves Le Mans with a 7-point lead over Luthi. He was very nonchalant that day. I didn't think he didn't look like he had the confidence underneath him. Jorge Navarro is quickly now a championship contender and 3rd. Marquez jumps him to 4th and Schroeder 5th. But I think that, man, Baldassarri is another one of those guys, kind of like Marquez. He's got to be leaving the 5th round going, wait a minute, I'm still up and I haven't scored in 2 rounds. That's got to give him a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I think you're, yeah. And that's the thing about Luthi, though, is he had an opportunity to really close this championship up and wasn't able to do it. So, you have Baldassarri, 75 points, Luthi at 68, Navarro at 64, Marquez at 61, and Schroeder. So, to me, it's going to be those 5, I think, that could come down in this championship. I think Fernandez is very talented, but 43, and Remy Gardner, who's, been pitching it away, hanging out with Brad Binder, who a lot of people thought, was a championship contender. But those riders could decide the championship. You know what I mean? The Fernandez, the Garners, the Binder, because they're going to stick their nose in there and be competitive. But I think the thing I'm looking forward to most about Moto2 next round is this the confidence that Marquez needed? Have they found a setup that's now working for them? Or is he getting more out of the electronics, the limited electronics that these bikes have where they had none before? So there's a lot of questions, I think, left to answer for Marquez. But we know the talent of Alex Marquez. So this might be the turning point in the championship. And, for Baldassarri, he's really got to start looking over his shoulder because things are,
I agree with you.
Things are going to start sorting themselves out in this one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's the 3rd time the Marquez brothers have won on the same weekend, and I even saw, I think it was on Bike Sport News, that there are links now to the possibility of Alex being talked to by Pramac Ducati right now. So, I think that is a jump that's going to happen eventually. It sure would be nice to see him have the success that he deserves in Moto2. So it was good to see him win. Last but not least, for sure not least, and I hope you got to see some of this race as well, Greg,
please.
but the Moto3 race never, ever disappoints.
Goodness gracious.
John McPhee gets the Petronas Sprinter Racing team their first victory as a team. Obviously, that team is also fielding Morbidelli and Quartararo in MotoGP. So they get their first win. For McPhee, I believe it's his 3rd or 4th Moto3 win. Dalla Porta, early season favorite for the championship, who crashed. Did you tell me he crashed 4 times, Greg?
4 times.
I can't remember.
4 times.
4 times.
Yeah.
Whew. Crashed 4 times, but
that's paying your team
ends
back.
Up second.
Yeah.
Only, you know what? And that's great. That is paying your team back. Exactly right. But boy, as a racer, you got to go into that race going, I've crashed 4 times.
Right.
And I still haven't got to the race yet.
All right.
But Dalla Porta ends up second. Aaron Canet ends up third with a huge battle with him and Toba right at the end there with four turns to go. Gabriel Rodrigo ends up fourth. Mino fifth. The aforementioned Toba sixth. Viete finishes seventh. Kazuki Masaki eighth. Cornfield ninth. Raul Fernandez, a Moto3 rookie this year, ends up 10th, just in front of his teammate Albert Arenas. Jaume Masia, who got I believe it was like a 1.8 or 2.2 penalty for exceeding track limits, which is something we can talk about that I'm tired of seeing and all that. But anyways, Yurchenko ends up 13th, Sasaki 14th, and Salik ends up 15th. And Greg, again, to your point, like in the Moto2, how many non-finishers did we have? We had one. God, at least 8 or 9 non-finishers, I
10,
believe.
11, 12.
10 non-finishers, yeah. 12 non-finishers.
Big names, too.
I don't really think that... What's that?
Big names, too, in there, you know?
Correct.
I mean, Suzuki on the 658, Squadra Corsa, Fanati. But the thing is with this, side note is 10 different race winners in the last 10 races. And so it's... and I haven't even really dived into how many different podium finishers that we've had total, because it just seems like we're calling different names every single week. It's the beauty of the class, but man, like there was 12 riders heading into that final lap, I guess, that were all in contention, and then there was kind of a move made and then a breakup of those top three. But I was thinking about you when I was watching that race, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, here we go. It's like 2 laps to go. There's 12 riders in it. Pridmore's probably puckered, like that. He's probably going, oh no. And so when I can't remember the move, but there was a move made that kind of separated those top three a little bit, top four. It just kind of spaced them out like a bike length or two. And I thought, oh, Jason's just got a sigh of relief right now, because think about it. Only 17 finished, but yet 12 were in contention on the last lap, or last 2 laps, I guess, 2 laps to go. And really,
it's unreal, isn't it?
Yeah. If you take out the Masia penalty, then you have 11 that finished 2.6 seconds, and where's that much time on the asphalt? It's absolutely crazy. I love watching those races. It's phenomenal. But
the best part about watching that race, Greg, is how you get that breakaway group, right? You always get that inevitable breakaway group, and it's kind of like cycling, because you get 7, 8, 9 guys that might break away, but all of a sudden you see this other organization of 6, 7, 8 bikes behind them, and they all start coming, and they all start getting closer. Jaume Masia was bringing that other group closer, and then all of a sudden, with 3 to go, that other group is now mingling with the first group. And that's where Toba came from, because he came from absolutely nowhere. Mm-hmm. And Toba's won this year at Doha. And all of a sudden, on the last lap, he's there with this group, and he's got himself into podium contention, and he's third with 4 corners to go. And Canet, who I feel is another one of those riders who we've criticized a lot in the past, or at least I have, of being a bit reckless and not caring too much about, some of these kids, they want to win so bad that they'll just do anything to get there. But he's 3 years deep into this now. I think having Max Biaggi there as an influencer might be helping him too. That's who he's riding for. And he's using his brain, he's using his head, but man, the podium was there. And with 4 corners to go, he put the stuffing pretty hard on Toba. And even on the cool-off lap, I saw Toba pull up alongside of him and give him the business a little bit, But
put the stuffing
he gets
on
third,
him,
and he's leading the points.
I thought it was Thanksgiving, and Toba was the turkey. He stuffed him so hard. Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah, it was. But you just never know in this class. Like, so just like that, he's got a 14-point lead over Della Porta, Antonelli, Toba fourth, and Jaume Masia, who again, Masia is another one of those guys who's he's won a race. He's had tremendous inconsistency, but he's sitting there in 5th place. And that championship. And do you remember the race last year at Mugello? Do you remember the Moto3 race by chance last year? There was 25 bikes in the lead group.
Oh, yeah.
For the whole race.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
For the whole race. So where these guys are heading to next, Greg, it's going to be wild. And I can hardly wait for Mugello, one of my favorite races to watch.
All right. The one thing I will say, last thing I'm going to say about Moto3, that, because I love numbers and stuff. Pole time for this year's race was set by McPhee at a 142.277. The fastest lap was Masia in the race at a 142.196. So Masia's race time, lap 7, wasn't like it was 1 or 2 on fresh tires, lap 7, and he went faster than pole time. And I was like, oh boy. And
pretty impressive.
That's really, really impressive. So, all right, Jay, what do you say we move on to some MotoAmerica stuff?
Let's do it.
You ready for it?
I am.
All right. Because if you know or follow Kyle Wyman, then you may have seen or heard his post Monday of this week. All right, Jay, that is Kyle Wyman testing his Ducati V4R. He's got new electronics, and he posted that up, like I said, on Monday, and it's pretty wicked sounding. He was at Pit Race for Monday and Tuesday, and I got to talk with him Monday. So it was like, get the electronics on, and he went out and got to do some laps. So I talked to Kyle, and I asked him to give us an update.
Update is I am in Pittsburgh. We just finished our first day testing here with the new kit electronic system from Ducati Corsa, and I finally have a real race bike. No, things have been good. We spent a couple days installing it. We have an engineer here from Italy, from Corsa, helping us get everything up and running. We finally have the bike is fuel mapped. The bike has some more sophisticated strategies happening, and the the rider's pretty happy. Everything's going smooth. We had no downtime. We made a bunch of laps today. We're getting my electronics guy, Darren. He's definitely going to school on the software that Ducati has made for this ECU. So he's learning, I'm learning, and it's going really well.
So when I talked to him, he had just gotten done from dinner, and obviously he was pretty tired because it was a long day, but he really was excited about it. And it's to me, Jason, it's just quite a story. It's quite a story that there's interest from Ducati USA, that Wayne Rainey sends an email off and, to Ducati Corsa, and next thing you know, Ducati Corsa is interested. And I think it's great.
Well, we've been following this. I think, as our show goes, we've become bigger fans of Kyle, and I appreciate the kid's work ethic and how hard he tries. And when you sit there and you think he's done those first 3 rounds on literally pretty much a bone stock Ducati. Yeah, he's had some slight mods done to it, like at the fuel tank and things like that, so that he can make it through the races. But really, up until he really hasn't had, thankfully, any big catastrophic problems with the bike that is made it to where he can't finish. So he has got laps on the bike so that he can get used to the chassis and things. Now that he's got that help, and I know he had these dates circled at Pittsburgh so many times. I would ask him about it, and he's like, yeah, Pittsburgh's coming up. We're going to have a lot more stuff there. It has to be a little bit refreshing too, seeing somebody there coming from Italy, standing there in red, trying to help you out. So,
yeah.
Right. And I think especially before when we go to this little staple of races now, Road America being a rider's favorite without question. Then we go to Utah, then we go in front of the world. It'll be important for Kyle to have this bike a lot better set up than it has been the first 3 rounds by the time he gets to Laguna for, in front of the World Superbike brass.
Mm-hmm. So, I was like to Kyle J. I was like, Kyle, you and I are tight and stuff. Really, how are these new electronics? You could tell me.
The best way I can explain it is right now I have a much more direct connection with the bike. I felt like, what my hand did with the throttle was like going through 10 layers of algorithms before the rear tire did what it was told to do, Now I feel like I have a much more crisp, throttle, much more smooth delivery. Everything feels like, the base map that was put in the bike is from Ducati for the V4. It's all built to work together, so pretty much right away I was like, man, this thing is pretty good. Damn near better than anything, I've ever ridden on straight away, and it's not even tuned to me or the track we're on or anything else. So we're so early on, but we were able to try some stuff today. I'm learning the different strategies, learning what I can do, what I can ask for, learning how to approach, changes, how to think about things in a different way in the context of what's important to look for and to feel for. So no, it's been a whirlwind. This morning, it's been a long couple of days installing everything, driving down to Pittsburgh, stuff like that. So I'm just looking forward to digesting everything and coming out. We got another full day tomorrow to test still, so I'm looking forward to it.
So Jason, too much right before, a week away from another race, or you just got to do it when you got to do it?
Got to do it when you got to do it. Did he say, Greg, whether or not they had any weather? Or because I saw a couple of his posts, and it looked like it was wet behind them. Like it looked like it, because we know how it can get back there sometimes. But did he say whether they got any weather, or did he get a good dry
He commented to me that they had no weather problems, that he got all the laps he needed. They were sharing time with Yamaha Champion School, so I don't know how much actual time he was getting on there. But yeah, he's, getting plenty of time, I think. Yeah.
Those guys are going to give him plenty of time for sure, because we know Kyle helps teach with Champ School and things, but for sure those guys are in his corner to try to get him as much quality time as he can on that bike. So, but I was just worried. I was thinking, oh man, hopefully it doesn't rain on him. And, but it all seems pretty promising so far. And he's got a good guy in his corner. Darren is, tremendously knowledgeable, was with Yosh for many years. He was with Jordan before that. So, they're now doing their homework, right? They're going to take the 2 days of data that they've discovered, and they're going to try to give him something at Road America that will will be great. Did he mention to you, G-Dub, about the possibilities of any of the Ducati course guys being there at any of the races with him?
No, he didn't mention that at all. But
yeah,
I would imagine that if they have any questions, that they'll have a direct line of communication. But I'm not sure if that's in the future. I think the biggest thing was, and I know Ducati. I've been around Ducati for many years. I think the biggest thing was sending that engineer. Kyle alluded to this in his first bit. Having that engineer there and saying, okay, how smart are you people? Or how serious are you, or whatever it is. Yep. Because what they would do is say, okay, you're allowed these parameters that you can work on and not these other parameters. But what Kyle said was, listen, they've opened up its green light. And that's due probably to the entire team, to knowing Kyle and to Darren and knowing how intelligent he is. That way, Ducati wants to protect Kyle, from himself if they didn't have a team that was good enough to handle all the parameters. So once that's open, it's going to be interesting to see what exactly that stock motorcycle can do, the motor specifically at Road America, because I know that up on the top end, it was choked off a little bit,
was it?
With the stock electronics. Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know. Having an engineer come back could be really helpful a couple races into the season, because from my thinking, because that software, all that stuff that they're working on is designed around Pirelli tires, and we race Dunlops. So It's going to be a little bit different without question, not just setup, but the way the electronics work because of how the Dunlops work versus those Pirellis. So
yeah, absolutely. No, that's all going to be stuff but I feel like they're working through it pretty well. I mean, it's not like he's been miles off. It's when you think about what he's riding and you think about his lap times at the tracks, it's not like he's been miles off. I know at the beginning at VIR, he had a lot of issues. And so some of his track time there was cut down quite a bit, or quality track time, I should say, because he literally came up to me and said, Jay, everything bad that I've been expecting to happen in the first 2 rounds is happening here. And of course, being a 2-day weekend was a little bit harder for him. But yeah, it sounds like we haven't, knock on wood, we haven't seen that, any big technical issues from that bike, which is great.
All right. I want you to listen to the start again. Okay. Because it sounds wicked. Here we go. All right, so I asked Kyle about that post, and I asked him how it all works.
It's pretty cool. It's it doesn't work properly unless you're wide open. So that was something I had to get used to, because you're wide open, you got to slip the clutch and everything. But there's a rev limiter, and that was the one I posted was my third start that I did. The first one was terrible. Just getting trying to get a feel for where the engagement point is with the clutch has been really hard for me, since the Ducati has a hydraulic clutch. You don't get a whole lot of feedback through the lever. So, like you would with a cable clutch. So that was been the hardest part. So I just kind of have to find that friction point. And I guess my third start, they said they actually have data on the starts too. So I guess I was 2.7 seconds, 0 to 100K. And I guess the record on the V4R for all the race teams is 2.6, so I'm not too far off. I'm right there with the race start.
I still got a 10th to work on. Come on, man.
Yeah, you got a whole 10th to work on there, Kyle. Come on now.
Have you done race starts with that type of electronic system where you just hold the thing completely wide open and you have
yet.
Not yet.
I haven't, and I want to try it now. I say not yet, and I'm not. Yeah, I'm saying that in the sense that Kawasaki has just given me a really nice kit bike to start riding, and the biggest problem is I'm just waiting for my leg to get a little better. I tried to ride it a little bit on Monday, but I know it's got all that stuff on there, and I'm kind of keyed up. I want to try it just to see what it's like.
Well,
I'd love to see.
Yeah, you got to report
the difference
on it
between using it. Yeah.
Because
why you're gonna make a comeback and ride it? You're gonna make a comeback and ride it if I get you.
I was actually going to announce that you were going to make the comeback and go racing now that you have a kit bike. No, but it kind of plays to the the old school racers that didn't have. Well, let me backtrack. It kind of plays to how incredible Valentino Rossi is as a rider, because if you think about his career, starting off with no electronics on two strokes to the sophistication they have now, his ability to let the pass go and adapt. I remember being on a bike that had full electronics on it, and someone saying to me, just go to the apex and just pin it wide open. And I was like, well, I can't do that. Like that's unheard of. Now we're in a situation for the last several years. Of course, it's, it's not like it's new to Ducati, but been around where you just you pin it wide open, it goes to a rev limiter, and it'll control the wheelie. And once it gets to a certain kilometers per hour, it's going to release the system, and your all systems will go. And it just seems that it would take me more than 3 tries. But obviously, listening to that that sound we had, it only took Kyle 3 tries, to get it going. So it was good.
Yeah, well, no question, Greg. And these guys are still current and they're still riding a lot. So for you and I to just jump on something like that, it would take us a few more times for sure, because we'd have to sit there and think about all of the reactions and the things that we did prior to. Now we've got something thinking for us and helping us a little bit more. So it would definitely, but it's the way of the world now. And all these kids are evolving with the times and with the electronics and it, again, having somebody there from Ducati course is invaluable because they were there when this system probably started. And so think about how many riders and test riders they've seen in Italy going through the same steps that Kyle had to go through, starting the bike and getting it going. But now I'm expecting Kyle to get good starts, and that thing's going to sound so good at Road America down the straights. I'm looking forward to getting in the trees and in the woods and listening to him go through some of the big fast straightaways at Road America. It's going to be great.
Me too. All right, Jason, grab your notepad because there's a lot to unpack in this final soundbite. So I said to Kyle, I know it's only been 1 day of testing, because keep in mind, we talked after the first day, but it sounds like the potential that this V4R has is really high.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously the ceiling is incredibly high. I have an incredibly experienced and smart electronics tech in Darren Marshall, who's joined our team this year for this reason. And Ducati, sending an engineer over to not only teach and help and get us running, but also realize, okay, how much adjustability can we give this team here in America that we know not a whole lot about? Having Darren, who's so experienced, that we've been given the basically the green light to adjust as we wish. So it's pretty cool. We're going to be able to tailor this thing to me, to our tires, to our racetracks. Each track's going to be a bit of a learning curve Friday morning or Saturday morning, depending on where we're going. But I am extremely optimistic, already feeling a lot more comfortable on this bike. And really just having today is really my first test day. So we're 3 rounds in, and this is the first day that I've ridden the bike without being on the clock or in, kind of a race situation. So it's good to just have me and the bike out there, nobody else, just getting to know it and getting acquainted with it. And that's been one of the biggest things for me.
So there you go. There's the Kyle Wyman MotoAmerica story. What do you think about that last little bit? There's a lot in there. And obviously I kind of jumped the gun. I forgot that was the last bite. I kind of jumped the gun about it, but there was a lot to unpack in that one.
Well, the first I got my notepad out, like you said, Greg, and the first thing I wrote down was, when you do something like what he has done this year, he's taken a big chance. I think that the biggest fear that the majority of us all had when we saw that Kyle was going with Ducati was the expense of what this is going to cost, because we know that it could be high. That said, he's worked so hard. He's got the right people around him. So when you hear him talk about Darren Marshall, who I brought up earlier, very intelligent guy who's going to help him along with this process, then you see that he's building relationships with Ducati. And it's not a thing where he's doing a certain amount of races. He's doing the season, and he's committed to that. I think that we're 3 rounds into a 10-round series for him. Every track, like he said, is going to be new. The knowledge that he gets and the comfort that he gets having people that at Ducati kind of keeping an eye on what's going on. If you look at his program, his bike looks amazing. Everything looks professional. How far along can he get with this program? In other words, I'm hoping that this is going to be something that he'll be able to build on, because going into next season, it will make a big difference for him and his psyche if he can stay on the same bike with the same team and continuing forward. And I know he's going to get a lot of the Ducatista fan groups behind him. We've got the Kyle Wyman Army and things behind him. I just want to make it to where all of the stuff that he's learning and getting better at and learning about this bike will just continue to pay itself off tenfold, and that he'll continue to be able to keep moving forward with this program. We need it. We need it in MotoAmerica, don't we? I mean, we really do. We need it.
Yeah, we definitely need it. And the fact that Ducati Corsa has their eye on America again is a great thing. I can tell you that there is a vicious rumor out there that no, and I say rumor, tongue in cheek, that some of the parts that they're developing for the World Superbike team, as they cycle through those parts and they become next generation parts, so they end up putting what they have, say, at the moment on the shelf for the next generation, that Ducati Corsa is going to send some of those parts Kyle's way.
Yeah, that's great. And
right?
It's,
I mean, that's
the stuff. That's great.
Just,
and it's, yeah, because look, when he says that the bar is set off a high, we've all seen what Batista's done, and incredible rider, but he's got the factory behind him. There's no buts to it. He's an incredible rider. But what I'm saying is that they're developing that bike for him. He's done tremendous on that motorcycle. He's gelled well with it. And now Kyle's probably getting the first generation of the stuff that Batista cycled through on, right? I mean, that's what your hopes are, is that he's going to start to get some of that stuff. And I'm happy for Kyle. Like I said, he works really hard. And I think that the ceiling on this bike is very, very high, as he says. And I don't want people to jump the gun too much and see what Batista has done and just expect that, well, now he's got the electronics. He's got Ducati, a guy from Ducati come over and see what he's doing. He should be smoking everybody at the next round, because it's definitely
he's
a
getting
pretty
help
big process,
from Ducati.
So.
He's getting a little bit of help from Ducati USA, Ducati Corsa, and all that stuff. But it's not like it's a full blown factory bike just yet, So But all you Ducatisti, come on out. You got to come to the races and see Kyle and support Kyle and get to the Kyle Army and go check it out. And he loves and appreciates all that. And Jason and I still sit completely baffled as to, there's only 24 hours in the day, and I don't know how he's doing all this stuff.
I don't know how he does it either. It's crazy. But anyways, well, thanks, Kyle. Again, really appreciate Kyle being on our podcast and getting us up to speed on that. This last weekend, Greg, they canceled the Sacramento Mile because of this big storm that was going to come through. But just around the corner from there in Hangtown, they opened up the outdoor motocross season. You and I toyed with the idea of getting into a motocross fantasy league and all that, but man, we got so much on our plates already. It just became a little bit hard. But I watched every lap of both races, all four of them actually. I watched the 450 and the 250, and I have to say it was really cool seeing Ken Roczen fight back from what he's fought back from. I know he wanted to do it in Supercross, get that first win. It's going to come, but he got the overall on the weekend. He literally ran away from everybody in the first race. And the second race, conditions were really sloppy, really bad. And he settled for second behind Tomac, who himself was second overall on the day. Jason Anderson, welcome return back from his injury in Supercross, ends up third. Your boy Zach Osborne, I thought, did tremending, ending up fourth overall. Cooper Webb fifth with 3.6 on the day for him. Musquin, Barsha, Baggett, Dean Ferris, and Justin Bogle, they round out the top 10. Did you get to watch it?
I did. And obviously race 2 was just a sloppy mud fest. Roczen in race 1 didn't have it easy. He had to come through, a few riders, and I just thought he looked great. And the thing that's funny is that afterward, on Racer X, Racer X's website, or there's a video that Jason Wygant posted that Roxon's like, yeah, listen, this is not my best stuff, But was really interesting about the chat that Roczen had afterward, Jason, was he talked about, and I'm sure you can relate to this, it was a couple of years ago that Roczen started really having these problems, injuries, and those types of things. And what he's trying to adjust to is the fact that his body has changed. It's different. It's a different body because of the injury, because he's a little bit older, and he's having to sort through, how do I train to that? How do I, stay in race shape? And it's something that honestly, I'd never really, put a lot of thought into myself, because his body is different, because it's been broken, and because it's not the same body that he had before he got injured. And so I just think it's awesome going 1-2. Tomac went 4-1. There's the difference there. I agree. Jason Anderson coming back was good. I mean, I liked it. I thought there were a couple of good races in there. Lucas,
did you get the feeling, Greg, not to interrupt you, but did you get the feeling like so many people, me included, like, I don't know. I just got the feeling like the fans and everybody else were so much more excited about him winning than actually Ken was. I think that he feels like he's still, in his post-race comments, like you mentioned, his body has changed, but I think he's had some sort of bout with chronic fatigue or something, right? But you could tell he was happy, but he was still like, I'm happy, but there's more to come. And like, it seemed like everybody around him was way more pumped than he was. I think that I don't know how to describe what I'm saying, but as a racer, it's almost like he's moved on past his injuries. He's not really thinking about those so much. I think that had he gone 1-1 on the day, it would have been more validation for him, maybe from a personal standpoint, where he would have been like, nobody beat me. I was the best on the day. I was quickest in qualifying. I was quickest in the first moto, second moto. I think that, when he passed, he caught and passed Tomac. Tomac led. He caught and passed him in the second moto and started to check out. Then when the conditions got really, really bad, there was one specific spot on the track where they had two completely different lines, and Roczen's line was quite a bit slower. He was on the far right side of the straightaway that had 10 ruts in it that were, axle deep, and Tomac kind of would run down the inside. But I just kind of felt like even though he was happy, he for sure was not satisfied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I
get that feeling?
agree. Yeah. Which, if he can get it sorted out, if Roczen gets on a roll, dude, he is hard to beat. And that's the thing. I think he won this one, but to me, he didn't seem like the Ken Roczen who has the ability to go on a roll right now. I think it was like an optimistic win. Does that make sense? Like, it just totally didn't have that. No, I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to be winning. Like, because we've seen this happen on dirt bikes plenty of times where riders get on this roll and they just start winning until someone knocks them off. And Roczen didn't give me the impression he's that guy at the moment.
Yeah, like I still feel like it was almost, if it would have been somebody other than Tomac, because Tomac's going for his third straight outdoor title, and I kind of feel like if it was Jason Anderson that beat him or something, but Tomac's going to be the guy. Like, Tomac finishing fourth again in the first moto is so weird because he's just coming through the pack, and then as soon as Jason Anderson fought back and passed him, like Jason Anderson fought back, passed him, and Tomac just went backwards. Like, it was almost like you want him to come in and say there was a problem with his bike or he couldn't see where he was going or something, but there's none of that. It's just like he just finished fourth, and then the second moto, Roczen passes him, he fights back, and he just won by 30 seconds. I don't know. It's just it's crazy. I think that what's the next round? I think it's Impala. I think it's this weekend. Impala, actually.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see in the 250, which the 250 class again was another great battle to watch.
Your boy.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad you call him that because I do like Adam. Adam Cianciarulo, still a guy I haven't met in person, but just really think that I love everything he's gone through. I like his story. So very class act. He takes the overall win. Justin Cooper, who won the first moto, finishes second overall. Colt Nichols, teammate to Justin Cooper, finishes third. Dylan Ferrandis, Chase Sexton, East Coast Supercross champ, fifth. RJ Hampshire, Michael Moseman, Alex Martin, Shane McElrath, and Christian Craig, back from injury, ends up 10th overall. I think that the story of the day is, the big thing is how is Cianciarulo going to bounce back after his crushing loss in the, 250 West Championship. And, in his podium speech afterwards, he basically said, look, all you can literally do is get yourself back up. That's all you can do. You can't sit there and dwell on what has happened. And I think he's young enough. I think that when you're young like that too, to have that kind of attitude of knowing that there's many years ahead of you, there's many gates to drop, many races to win. All you can do is move forward. But he fought really hard in that second race and ends up getting the overall, going 2-1. And I've never really seen him that animated after a win. So you could tell it's something that he's been battling for the last couple of weeks, getting over that defeat.
Yeah. I love seeing Adam Cianciarulo win, though. It's good. Good stuff. All right, Jason.
And I think that,
well, go ahead.
Yeah, our job is to stay unbiased. Our job is but in motocross we don't have to because we
exactly.
We're fans and that kind
just
of thing.
Just like I'm a big Zach Osborne fan.
Of course. Yeah, you've said nothing but great things about him, and I only know him sort of through you. Greg,
the story behind that though is
it's a great story. Yeah, tell it.
I'm not telling it. All right, so I'm doing Pro Motocross, PA announcing. We're in Colorado. They asked me to do the podium, and Zach won the race. And I come on the podium, and Zach turns to me. Oh my God, it's Greg White from Two Wheel Tuesday. And this is only a couple of years ago, and it threw me for such a loop. I forgot Zach Osborne's name on the podium, and I called him something else. And I called him somebody else's name, and he said, "Well, actually, I'm Zach Osborne." And he's been giving me crap about that ever since. And I always
can
giggle.
only imagine.
He's such a good-hearted guy. I will say this though about the 450 class, Jay, that I think is very interesting. You want to talk about Lucas Oil Pro Motocross as being the premier motocross. I know there's FIM motocross and everything, but just listen to this, Jay. So Ken Roczen is from Germany. Obviously, we have riders from the States. Muscan's from France. 9th place was from Australia. We have Sweden, in Frederick Noren. There were a couple riders here from Japan. Yeah. Cody Cooper from New Zealand. We had Matthias Jorgensen from Denmark. We had a rider from Venezuela. Wow. And, of course, we had South Africa that was in the race. We had Canada. But we also had a rider who finished 33rd who's from Estonia.
No way.
Yeah.
So we're getting multinational over here, too, with our outdoor national series. That's tremendous. That's great. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. All right, we're going to wrap this thing up for those of
Greg,
you
real quick,
who want to get out and see some race. What?
Yeah,
what?
before you do
ahead.
this, I got to say one thing.
Wait a second.
Quick.
Wait. Hold on a second. There's no fantasy Supercross. Don't do
I know
this
there's
to
nothing.
me.
There's nothing, and I'm not going to talk about your ride or anything else. But one thing you and I talked about that we forgot to bring up, that I have to bring up.
Yeah.
But the Alex Rins thing, I don't know if you saw it on the weekend, but
yeah. Tell us the story. It's amazing.
Real quick, Alex Rins, he's obviously become a fan favorite around the world, and favorites of ours as well. But this guy qualifies 19th, which is, as a rider, you're not happy with that. Okay. Qualifies 19th, finishes 10th, worst race of the season.
Could make him grumpy.
Could make you a little grumpy. Yes, very well put, Gito. Could make you grumpy. This guy finishes 10th, and to show you the kind of class act he is, over the course of the weekend, one of the corner marshals had passed away through a stroke or heart attack. But it was like during the weekend. I believe it was Friday afternoon or even Saturday morning. One of the corner marshals actually passed away. Rins on his cool-off lap after finishing 10th and probably having his head a little bit low. Saw a big group of the marshals. They come out onto the track basically after the races are over. He stops and takes his helmet off and says to the marshals, "Please make sure that this helmet gets to the family of the gentleman who passed away." And I just think to myself, like, how can you not root for this guy even more now? The fact that he took time, he really didn't have much to celebrate as far as his weekend went. It was the worst weekend he's had. Even in his post-race interview, he said, "You know what? Those 6 points could be really key and pivotal." He's still third in the championship, but I thought it was such a cool gesture on his part. It says a lot about the guy to stop on the cool-off lap and do something so cool for the corner marshals and the family of the marshal that was lost.
Yeah, where I come from, dude, we say that is wicked awesome. Wicked awesome.
That is.
So really Rins, big fan, Rins. Good job. Awesome. All right, so now, for those who want to get out and see some racing, and you should, round 2 of the Pro Motocross is in Impala, and obviously at Fox Raceway in California. American Flat Track at Illinois State Fairgrounds for the Springfield Mile. You got to check that out. A must-see for any fan. The Works Off-Road Series is in Mesquite, Nevada. British Superbike GP at Donington Park over the weekend. FIM Motocross in France and more. So get out and watch some racing. Any predictions for BSB?
I think the one that's going to be the biggest one there is, will Redding get his first victory on that Ducati? His teammate did the double at Oulton Park. Tommy Bridewell is basically on a privateer Ducati and finished second in both rounds at Oulton. And he's hungry to come out and win. If you saw, he stepped in for the injured Eugene Laverty at Imola. And by the way, Greg, I did throw a text out to Eugene, and he says he's doing great and he's getting better, and he's hoping to be back for the Mazzano round, which would be the round just before Laguna, I believe. So that's going to be good. Hopefully we can see him ride. But he did say in his text, he's like, "Jay, I have a very competitive motorcycle that I'm eager to get back to." So that was pretty encouraging.
Come on, Eugene Laverty. Get better soon. See everybody.